Welcome, everyone. And we have a comment here that I want to address. It says, I've only participated in meetups organized by local groups and companies. Those were more of a webinar, so you're not allowed to talk there. I was unprepared and didn't say a greeting. Sorry. Hello. I'm from Kazakhstan. And I will say, wherever you are in the world right now, whether it's Kazakhstan, Russia, Nigeria, Japan, Ireland, whatever, we're all Memphians for the day today. You're a Memphian for today, okay? As far as I'm concerned, you're in Memphis with us. You're a part of our group, and you always will have this support group behind you, making sure that we root you on wherever you go. So don't worry about some of those things. You are absolutely welcome here, and you have a group of people that really just want to make sure that you're doing okay. And so that's why we do this. And we have a special guest speaker today, Francesco. He's from Italy. He's from Rome. He is a Docker enthusiast. He is a Docker genius, and he is a phenomenal human being and someone that I am very proud to call a friend.
Yeah, we are connected since some months, I think.
Yeah, we've been talking for a long time, and we pretty much talk almost every single day. So I'm very happy to have him in my life.
This is the first time that we really we needed to do a talk to actually interact in a video call. So this is already worth it. Even if the talk goes totally bad, I'm already happy because I've seen you, and so I'm very happy about that. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Honestly, we genuinely, we talk every day. We talk through text, and we talk about ideas. We share things, and he's definitely helped me become a more intelligent person in this space. And to be honest, I already have my notebook here. I've got my laptop in front of me, and then I got this laptop. Like, I'm ready to take notes. I'm ready to absorb the genius that is Francisco. But like we do before every single event, I just want to leave us with a couple wise words to get everything started before we go. And right now, we have an opportunity to take a step today that in a year from now, we can look back on today and be like, I'm happy I made this adjustment, this pivot, this move. And I feel like we all want to change things. I'm talking to a lot of people in the last couple of days that want to change their lives. They want to experience new things. They want to experience new careers. They want to go from making minimum wage to 6 figures. They want to change not just their life, but the life of their family, their loved ones. They want to make this change, but you need to fix your mind before you are able to make that change. Because if you put new ideas into an old mind, all it does is leak through the crevices of something that is not molded by the experiences that they've witnessed within their life. You need to make sure that you are absorbing everything that you're doing. Change your mindset. There's someone right now in a hospital bed that is begging for the opportunity that you have right now in front of you. They won't be here tomorrow, and you will. And what are you going to do with it? Are you going to waste that day away? Are you going to waste that week and month away? Are you going to actually do something that's going to set you up for a generational rift? Are you going to do something that's going to change the circumstances that you were born into? I always say we can't choose our circumstances, but we can change them. So the question is, do we just sit there and die in the circumstances that we've been dealt? Or do we say to hell with them and do exactly what we need to do to instill the changes that are necessary for us to do this thing? You've got to stop wasting your time. You can waste money. You can get that back. I can give away my clothes and I can get some clothes back. I can give away some books and courses and I can get those back. But if I waste an hour, there's no way in this universe that it can ever come back to me. If I'm spending time, I need a return. Just like when I spend money, I get something for it. If I spend time, because time genuinely, it equals money. If I spend time, I need something for it. You are wasting your time. You're allowing the circumstances of your past to dictate your current and your future. You have to let go of the past and step in to your new day. Step in to that future, and I hope you take these words seriously and make the changes that you want to see happen for yourself. Without further ado, I give the floor to the amazing Francisco.
Yeah, thank you, Danny, for your introduction. I totally agree with you on this idea. Yeah, you also need to work always on your mindset, because this is very important. Okay, so first of all, thank you, Danny, for giving me the opportunity to talk here about my favorite topic. For who have joined later, I'm Francesco, I'm from Rome. And let's talk about a little bit about my coding experience, because I've been seriously into coding only in the last 5 years, for 2015. And I started with using Unity and C#, trying to make some games. So I took this just for fun. And I also deployed, for example, an app on the Google Play Store that is almost 1,000 download, I think, right now. This was in January. Okay. My other experience in coding are in Java. Java, yeah, I'll put the link later. Java, Python, C, C++. But my best language, of course, is PHP. No, no, I'm joking. It's JavaScript. I also used it in my job. No, I've used PHP during university, and it's totally useful. But I've worked with JavaScript a lot. So my story is in 2017. I started to work for the European Space Agency. I work actually on the Copernicus project, which is a fancy project when we work on the Earth observation with satellites. It's a very nice project. It's quite big project. There are some interesting stuff there. Okay, then one important thing is that when I started to work there in 2017, we really we was not using Docker, and but I started to learn Docker by myself. I've used it. I used just some free resources, on almost free resources, because there were courses like $1,000, $2,000 for two or 3 days. So I would not recommend to go for them unless you are very, very rich. But the important thing is that you need to focus on something for some time. And the good news is that in 2019, so about one year ago, we decided to finally use Docker in our workspace for a brand new project, for when we had a Node application and a front end, also in JavaScript. So I was very happy that I had studied that for like 2 years alone by myself. And then they decided, okay, let's use it. And I had, honestly, a quite good advantage on the other people who just was trying to figure it out. Okay, what it is, what we can do with that. So I can bring to you my personal experience because, of course, we made a lot of releases without using Docker before in the past 2 years. But what I've noticed in the migration from not using Docker to using it, it's 3 points. The first one is about the speed, because before we were using Docker, the testing and releasing phases, they could last days, also weeks. Sometimes we had a lot of headache. We wasted a lot of time trying to figure it out. Oh, why doesn't it work? And we all developers were saying, oh, but it works on my machine. No, please check it again. So we really didn't understand what we need to do to work to make the application work on the production. So this is very important. And when we started to use Docker, this changed. We started to make a release in days, maybe hours. So the release time was no more a stress for us. This is really, really a game changing for the developer and for the sysadmins. So we had a really real improvement. It's not just some fancy stuff, some buzzword that you read on internet. Okay, let's use it. It's really, really useful. And the reason why it's useful is the second point that is my favorite one, that is the portability. The idea is that you can use Docker in the same way on each machine. Yeah, it works on my machine. It's this problem solved by Docker. So this is very important because you, as developer, could work on a totally different machine. You can work on Linux, you can work on Mac. And when you want to deploy something, you want the same environment. You want something that you can make it work wherever you want. This is very, very, very important. Okay, it's Docker. They say that Docker is operating system agnostic. So this is for me. This is the key reason why I use it. It's not about speed. It's useful for the company or also for me if I want to deploy something. But it's not that the game-changing thing. For me, is the portability is the best feature. And the last advantages that we had, it's about money. We had like reduced resource by more than 50%. So our bosses start to say, "Oh, Docker's maybe it's nice." Yeah, maybe. They started to like it because it means that they were not wasting more money. So this is really, really important, and it's not just something cool. If you can save some money or use it, you can use the same amount of money, have the double of the machines. This is really, really a game-changing technology. I could try to share my screen. Okay, I can share my screen.
Hold on, it should. Let's see. Let me try this.
Host disabled attendee screen sharing.
Oh, okay, now try.
Let's try. Okay.
No,
yeah. I don't know if you are lucky or not, but I had no time to prepare some slides. I don't know if this is okay for you. If you are lucky, oh, no, this is a spoiler. This one. Okay. Yeah, and this is something. If you try to search for Docker versus virtual machine, you can end up in something like this on internet. I made this, so this is made by myself. I posted it on Twitter maybe some months ago, and I was lucky enough to find it again on my PC. So let's see the difference from virtual machine and container. Okay. What is a virtual machine? A virtual machine is a virtualized operating system, and to work, it needs an hypervisor or something like that. And we have used this for many years, and people before containers also used it a lot. But what's the problem with virtual machines? The virtual machines, they use a lot of resources, and also they are slow. They are slow to replace. They are slow maybe also to create. And instead of just doing this, we could just maybe do something like this. When we have Docker on the top of an host operating system, and using some features on Linux, the names and groups, if you are curious about that, we can containerize our application, okay? So what is a key concept? What are the key concepts of Docker? I would like just to point out just two of them. One is the container. Okay, so what are container? Everyone is speaking about container, is talking about container. Containers are processes that run inside an operating system, and they have just some additional features to keep them isolated and encapsulated from other containers and from the host machine. So they are very lightweight. They are easy to stop, start, remove. this is the key concept that is behind the container, that they are very lightweight and something like that. And another concept, before maybe we can try some very little demo, is the image. Okay, an image is just a file that we can create. It's a file that bundles everything you need. Can you hear it? Yeah. It's a file that it contains everything you need in order to run your application. So all your dependencies, the tools, the installation of node modules, for example. So this is something that you can share on somewhere. You can also save it locally and bring with you with an USB. And where can we find these images? Let me try. Okay, Docker Hub. Okay, let me show this. Okay, so what is Docker Hub? Docker Hub is a Docker registry, something that we can also deploy by ourselves. We can have our private registry. It's a bit slow. Let's see. And in the Docker Hub, we have a lot of images that we can already use. We don't need to start from scratch. This is the power of Docker, that a lot of companies, they started to create their own images. So for example, the connection works. So for example, we can start from a node image, a Postgres image. Each company created their own images. They keep creating their images when they create a new version of their software. For example, when do you remember? Maybe it was May, April, when Deno came out. They didn't have an official Docker Hub image, so this was not good for me. I don't know if they will do that, but okay. So here, let's see just as an example. Okay, it's a bit slow, but okay. Here we have a lot of images that we can use. Traffic, Postgres, Ubuntu. And I think that this is the power of Docker, that you can start from something and just build on top of that. So for example, in this demo that I try to do it well, we will create our Docker image starting from our node application. And well, we will also push it on our Docker Hub. Docker Hub, you can create an account like this, and then you can push and pull images. It's similar to GitHub in some ways. Okay, just let me show the last thing. So how do we create our image? An image is just that file that we can use. We have our application. We will have our application. Then what we can do? We can just simply create something like this, a Docker file, which is a file, a text file without the .txt extension inside the folder of the application. Then, starting from this, we can build our image. We will see how we'll do it. We'll do it together later. Then we create this Docker image, which can have a tag, a version. We will see it later. And then, starting from this Docker image, we can run our containers. The containers, to do an analogy with programming languages, are like the instances of the Docker image. Just an analogy to understand how do they work. Okay, we can start, stop, and remove the containers, but the image keeps staying on our system. Okay, so let me check if you have some questions. Let me see here. Stop share. Okay, let me check the presentation. Okay, so we could try to make something. Okay, so here we can create a new folder. Let's name it Denny. And like here. Okay, and now. Okay, And we'll create our node application. Let's try. What's happened? Wait a moment. Okay. Okay, we are here. I see the Dennis face here. Okay. So let's try. Okay, so we can just, we will not do something very sophisticated.
Are you sharing your screen, Francisco?
You can see the screen?
No.
Wait. Why? Wait. Okay, let's try to share it again. Okay, can you see the screen now?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Yes. Okay, so now I just started a new node application, and we can also install Express. Okay, now we'll create our application. The thing that I want to point out that we are using Node because a lot of people maybe use Node, but we can containerize any application, Python, Java, PHP. We can containerize every application. This is just for test purposes. And now I'll cheat a bit. I'll just copy paste the hello world example of Express, because this is not the topic of our talk. Okay. Okay, so here we can create a folder. Let's call it up. Let's create a file. And inside this, let's copy paste. Okay, it's a bit slow. Okay. Okay, version 1. Okay, this is not Docker. This should be something that you know. If you don't know the node, we are just running a backend application now. Let's see if this works. No. Why we have commit created? What's the problem here? Wait, maybe we don't have it. No, we have npm install. Let's see if this works. No, maybe I have not installed. No, let's see. No. Okay, what's the problem here? Maybe here. Oh, well, just
the chat says line 10 is missing a closing bracket.
Maybe I've just okay. I can't even copy paste the code. Okay, nice, good. No, maybe here. Maybe I should keep the. Okay. Have I won something? This is why you should never copy paste without double checking. So this is what just a test for you. Okay. Okay. It's a bit slow, maybe just because of the talk. Okay. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here we have our node application. This is not Docker, okay? So now to containerize our application, as I said before, we can create, no, not here. And we can create this. This is important. We create a file named Docker file. Okay, and one thing, I'm using the official VS Code extension of Docker, okay? You just have some highlights. Maybe in the Docker file you can also see things, but it's just the most important result. Let me show you. Let me show. It's a bit slow. Okay, so it's just this one. Okay, it's the most famous one. Okay, so here in the Docker file, we tell Docker all the instruction that we want to make the Docker to create an image. Okay, so usually in a Docker file, the first line is always a from. Okay, so we can start from this node image that we saw before on Docker Hub. Okay, so then we can also expose a port. Okay, let me tell you that if you want to know what is this, you can just come here. It says define the network port, container will list at runtime. So this is useful maybe if you want to learn it. And then we can play work dir. Okay, the work dir is the directory that will be used inside the container. So this you can put this wherever you want. I'll just use this. Okay. Then let's try this this command package. Okay, so this is the copy command. The copy command is used to copy file and folders from the source inside the image file system. Okay, we will see this later, but here basically, and this is just a shortcut to just copy the package JSON and also the package the .lock.json if it exists. Okay, so I could just make 2 lines, but this is maybe easier. And then another important command that we can run on the Docker file is the command run. The command run is very powerful. We can also do things like apt get update. We can install dependencies also with curl and something like this. In this case, I'll do the npm install inside the image. Then we'll copy all the structure. In our case, is just this folder app and is app.js. And finally, we can do this command. And this is this is what will be run when we run our container. App. It's basically what we did before. Okay, and before before creating our image, I'd like also to init our Git repository. Okay, because I want to show you something later. Okay, let me add. Okay, so I've just initialized a Git repository here. Okay, so this is not Docker, this was just Git. Let me clear. Okay, so now we have our Docker file here. Now we can do something like this. This is important. Docker image build. So this is the command that I showed you before. So we can build an image starting from a Docker file. We can give a tag to an image. We will call it Danny1. And finally, we can pass the path of the Docker file. We can also use a different name, but I've always used this Docker file. In this case, it should work just like this. Okay, and here the Docker build command is taking all these commands and is executing these one by one from top to bottom. This is very important, and the order matters a lot. Yes, and it seems that it's a bit slow, but this is just for the first time that we run the Docker build command, because the images are made of layers. So if we have already a layer without any modification, Docker skips that layer and it goes further. So the next build will be way faster than this. Okay, so this should take, I don't know, 1 minute, something like this. I don't know if I can check the chat, maybe, meanwhile. Well, let's see it later. Okay. Okay. Let me share. Okay. Okay, so first of all, we are building our image. It's taking a bit long, but not a problem. Yeah, I know the reason why it's taking a bit long, but we will see it later. Because basically we are copying all our folder. What is this? Okay. Okay, so now let me check here. Docker images. Okay. Yes, let me show you some basic commands, maybe for someone who has never used Docker before. You know, we can, first of all, we need to install it Docker. On Mac and Windows, you can use the Docker desktop. Instead of Linux, we can also use this a script which is called get Docker, which we can get from get Docker. This one, I'll leave you maybe later the link. This is to install Docker on Linux. Otherwise, if you want to install it on Windows and Mac, you can just, you can check my video for Windows, but it's basically the same for Mac. Okay, so now, okay, so here, these are the images. We have this image now, created 17 in, and to see the containers on our machine, we can do a Docker container ls. Okay, it's clean because I've cleaned it this before. Okay, so now to build an image, we can do Docker build -t. No, we have already built the image. Okay, now we can just run it now. Docker run. Let's see some basic option that we can do. Name, we can do Danny version 1. Okay, let me check. 3000. I'll explain later. Okay, so what are we doing here? We are starting the container from this image. The image is called Danny1. We are giving a name to that container, which is not mandatory, but it's useful. We are telling Docker to use the port 3000. This is on the host machine and on the container. And also in detached mode, so it doesn't blocks our terminal. Let's see. Okay, we can check if the container is up and running. Yes, it's up and running here. Let me. Okay, let's check it again. Localhost 3000. Okay, and here we have the same application, but now we have run this with Docker. Okay, so this was the first step. Now, something that I'd like to show you is how this is one of the first questions that I get when I teach people how to learn Docker. How do I get inside the container? Because we are used to something like SSH and something like this. We don't really need to do an SSH if our Docker containers are on our host machine. We can use the docker exec command. These are options to make it interactive and the use of sudo tty, the name of the container. Okay, and let's see what is inside here. Can you see here that here we are inside this path, inside this root, and then this name. We are inside this path here, user source up. And if I do an ls here, you see these are all the files that we have copied with this command. Okay, but let's check one thing because we have something interesting maybe here. Do you see here? We have our Git history inside our production image. Maybe this is not useful. Maybe we don't want our Git history because it's useful in development, but it's not useful when we are on production. So let's do a little change. Okay, so first of all, I'll delete our my node modules because I don't really need the node modules only if I want to develop on my machine without using Docker. So to exclude some paths that are not shown here in the Visual Studio Code either, but I can show you that the Git repository is there. Yeah, you see here. So to do this, we can create a Docker ignore. And if you are used to Git, this is something very, very similar. So we can exclude, for example, the Git history and the node modules. Okay, so what does the Docker ignore? When we copy from one folder to another, from the source to the image, it excludes some paths. Let's see. So let's build. Okay. In order to do this, let me also make a little change so we can see version 2. Okay. Let's build again. And as you see, this time this has been very, very faster than before. Okay. So let's run it again. And this time, okay, but first of all, okay, let's do this so we get the error. Docker run. Okay, here, image 2. Okay, let's try like this. You should get an error. Okay, the error here is that we have already this name and this is a container with this name. Okay, as you can see, here we still have this container running, so we can remove this container. Docker rm, and to remove a container, we can use the name of the container or so something like this. No, then one. No, this is the image name. Okay, and we can also just use the first letters of the ID. Okay, it doesn't want to remove, we can force it. Because we should first of all stop the container and then remove it. Okay, so let's check it again. Okay, and now let's try it again. Okay, let's leave the same name. Okay, here. Okay, and here we see that we have changed our version. Okay, it's not very useful, but it's for demo purposes. And let's try to get again inside that container. Docker exec bash. Okay. Let's see. Okay, and as you can see now, here we have our .docker ignore because we have updated this, but we have no more the .git history. Okay, we have the node modules because this is the folder that we have created with this npm install command inside the Docker file. Okay, but this is how you can exclude maybe some path, or maybe you have some configuration file that you don't want to include in your image. Okay, there are some people that says that you should not include your Docker file inside the image because if someone hacks your container, because containers are not secure by default, they are secure, but we still need people that work on the security part, of course. And some people says that you should not put the Docker file because here I'm basically explaining how I am creating my application. So this could contain some sensible informations. but this is for demo purposes. So I leave the Docker file here. If you want to exclude the Docker file from the Docker build, you can just put it like this. Okay. Okay, so I think let me stop sharing my screen. Maybe I'll check some chat. This inclusive. Okay. So Danny, so I've done this very little demo. I don't know if you want to make me some question, if you want to see something else, because I didn't want to do a real long talk for the first one. So let me tell you that what you want. If you have some questions, I don't know even how it works. If they show them in chat.
So what I always ask is anyone in the chat, please drop a question, and we have no problem answering that. And I've been looking, I haven't seen anything pop up as a question. Otherwise, I would stop you. But anyone that has any questions, please ask them, and we can get some dialogue going or clear up any concepts that you have that may be a misconception.
Yeah. This was really pretty basic stuff, just because it's really important. It's not about doing something complicated. It's about to grasp the concepts, because maybe you just have a Python application. You don't really care about the specific configuration of the Docker file for Node. There are many people. I can also say one question that I get very, very often. A question that I get very, very often is, should I learn Docker or should I learn how to containerize my application? Okay, so this is up to what do you want to do, because if you don't want to be a DevOps engineer, and you, for example, you work with React, okay, so in that case you could just learn what is the best configuration for React, and you are ready to go. You don't need to understand everything. Okay, this is just a whole new technology, so you can just take what you really need. I'd call this the soft way to learn Docker. So you just learn what you need. I have just a Django application. I need just to containerize my Django application. You can check something. It's plenty of best practices of that specific application. I use Node because I like Node, for example. And basically this is, so there is these generic concepts that applies to every application, and then something specific to you. Or maybe you have a front-end application and a back-end application with different technologies, and you apply just to them. You don't need to understand how to containerize any application in the world. Is this clear?
So I have a question, and we have several questions that just came up. My question is, let's say today I say I want to learn Docker. What do you recommend as the #1 way to go start learning right now?
Okay, first of all, check my introduction video. No, I'm joking. For real, it's plenty of very, very good starting videos. So there are one. I also friend with Bert Fisher, which is a famous Docker captain. She is really, really nice. So, and I suggest to not spend thousands of dollars to learn it. Trust me, you don't need to spend a lot of money, because I've seen courses like $2,000, $3,000 for 3 days. This is just crazy. Okay, so stop, don't do that. Don't think that by spending $1,000, because people tend to think that, okay, if I spend $2,000, I'll be a master of this course, but it could be. I'm not saying anything to the trainer of that course. Maybe he is good, but it's not really worth for me. This is what, of course, you need to spend some time by yourself. If you want to learn Docker, you can start from there is also plenty of on Udemy. Okay. You can follow me, send me a message. I've helped a lot of people because it's a topic that I like. So you can there are people that just send me, how can I do this? Why am I stuck? And a good thing is that if you create an image, maybe you put it on Docker Hub, we have not done this today, we will do it in another day. I can also check I can test your application in my environment. This is really important because I can try with your configuration in my PC. And something that I like very much is that I don't really have to, if something is not working, because sometimes the things does not work, things that don't work. I don't think, but maybe it's the configuration, maybe. I am sure that is not, or I think that it's not Docker, but it's something else. This is, do you understand what's the important thing? That I'm sure that if you have a problem on your code, I can get your repository, launch it on any operating system that I'm on, and I'm sure that it's not an operating system problem. You can, maybe you have developed your application on a Mac, I am on Windows on that time. I can just copy your repository, work it, try to run it, and I'm sure that I don't have to run your application on my Mac to be sure that it's a Mac thing. Do you see the power?
It makes sense. So we have a question here. If we have a React or Angular app, like a static app, should we Dockerize it?
Okay, this is a good question because we have Dockerized our application. It's not a must, but in my opinion, it's useful. For example, we have Dockerized our Angular application. I think that with an Apache server, for example, with just a copies the distribution. But because, for example, you can also pass your environment variables. You can configure. It's a way. It's not a must for front end. I need to say this. But you can, because we deployed the application, of course, before Docker and before containers. It's just a new way. For front end, it's not mandatory. Maybe for the back end, it's more important to learn it before because we have also this scalability problems. We need a lot of services. And one thing that we have not seen today, but we will check it if Danny invites me again, is how we can use Docker with a database. I'm working on a video about this. When you can work with the database, for example, Postgres, without installing it. You don't install Postgres on your machine. I don't install Postgres or MySQL anymore. I just use the official MySQL and Postgres images on my PC. And when I deploy them, I just deploy the same image. For example,
so I have a question. So like, let's say I have a React or Angular app and it has like a lot of dependencies and libraries. By Dockerizing it, it would hold all the information, right? So if I were to go onto another laptop, I wouldn't have to install all of them, would I?
Yeah, this is really the crucial part, that when we create our image using the Docker file, there you can just make the commands that you need to do. So of course, an hello world doesn't really need the Docker like I show you now. The important thing is to understand the concept that maybe you need some specific thing, or maybe you need a specific version of Node. For example, we at work for the European Space Agency, they have strict requirements. So you need to use Node version 10 for this application. You can't just use Node version 14 because it's nice. These are strict requirements. There is a lot of bureaucracy around them. And of course, there are tools like NVM that make you switch the Node version on your PC. But for example, now on my PC, I have Node version 14, but I have used Node 12, for example. So this is useful. This is very useful and one very important thing is that, let's make an example. You want to make at the same time, you are a developer, you are full of tasks of people asking you to do things. You need at the same time to develop something on Postgres version 10 and Postgres version 12. You can't really do this on your machine. You should switch. It's impossible. You should create maybe partition. It's very, very difficult. Instead, you can just work with different images at the same time. When I work with that version, for that project, I use this version. For this project, I use another version. This is very, very important because I had also a colleague of mine working on my machine using SSH and some mobile term to see and he worked on a brand different project, different version of the same program. This is very, very important. And yeah, also at the beginning, yes, 2 years ago, I was like screaming like a mad at my work, like, oh, learn Docker, please. I was because I knew that the power that it has. Because I think that a lot of times in our world, we are full of buzzword, new things, learn new things. This is new, this is better, this is faster. But this time, okay, and it's not about Docker. I don't get money from Docker. The important thing is to understand the containerization concepts. It's not a problem. There are some alternatives to Docker. There is something like Podman or LXC, I don't know. But that's not a problem. You need to, it's like to say it's better Django or Node before you understand what an API is. It's not that you need to understand what a REST API is, not to understand it by a framework. It's the same concept. So I suggest to start with Docker because you can find more things about the internet. You can also always send a DM to me, which is a great advantage. And but the idea is to learn these containerization concepts, which are better for everyone. So I don't know if there are a lot of questions. Yeah, choose a question.
So I was going to say, what other alternatives do we have for Docker? Because I see Docker has a limitation on their free plan.
Okay, okay. So Docker has a limitation of their plan. There is an enterprise edition, but you don't really. It's not really a problem of the enterprise edition, which is very, very costly. It's like $1,000 per month. You don't need that. Don't worry. You don't need the enterprise edition, which adds something, but it's something for very, very, very big companies. And also we in ISA, when we started to use Docker, we didn't really use the enterprise edition. Okay, so it's not a problem of money. Maybe it's more a problem of the daemon. You can, if you start typing Docker alternatives, you can say, oh, don't use Docker because it has a daemon that has basically it's something that has root access. So there are some daemonless technologies. So you don't have this root access. Okay. So this is a big problem. Yeah.
Okay. How do you set up / include environment variables?
How do
you set up or include environment and variables?
Okay, this is a very good question. You can do this in different ways. You can, it depends. In the beginning, you can use env in the Docker file to use to set the key of the environment variable, and also, okay, yes, yeah, Danny, okay, yeah, and also there is a tool that we will talk about that maybe in another talk, which is a Docker Compose. Maybe someone has heard about that. That is a very, very powerful tool for building when we have multiple services. For example, we have front-end, back-end, and database. And there it's very, very easy to set up environment variables. Okay. You can also use an external file. I think this will be actually a topic of a video in the future, because I know that this is something that people need. Okay. And of course, the environment variables, it depends. If you use Node or Python, they are passed inside the application in different ways, but they are defined in the same way, for example, on the Docker file, or in the Docker Compose. And when you run the application, you can use -e and add your environment variables. Okay, we have not done this today because I wanted to keep it very, very simple, but of course, you can do this.
How does Docker solve the problem of, but it works on my system?
Yeah, I've said this before. yeah, before we say this works on my machine, it's also a joke. The good thing is that when you install Docker on any machine, you have the same environment where you can work. Okay, so if now you have a Raspberry Pi, you install Docker, you can use the same image that I have created. Okay, so this is the good thing, that we don't need to understand what operating system are you using when you develop or in production. Okay, because usually, for example, at work I use a Debian machine, on also the Mac sometimes, and we have something different on production. It's a different version of Linux, for example. Okay.
Okay, and so we have, so if I understand correctly, I can have an image in development, and when I want to send it to QA production, I can create a new image by defining different docker.file.
Okay. Okay. Yes, you can create one Docker file defines an image. Okay, you can tag an image with different version. An image can have different tags, can also have multiple tags. I have a video about that. And yes, of course. Yeah, you can create, building an image is like create a binary file, something that you can bootstrap anywhere Docker is installed.
Can you comment on the future of Docker in concern to the rise of serverless functions on the cloud?
When is that?
By Pav. Could you comment on the future of Docker in concern to the rise of serverless functions?
Okay, I've heard about serverless. I've watched some videos, but I'm really still not really into that. So I've just watched some videos. So I don't want to give maybe a wrong answer about that. So maybe I'll check it this and I can answer later. Okay. For now, I'm really focused on understand and teaching these concepts. I've also by myself. I'm already learning Kubernetes. I've used Docker Swarm on production, but I don't want to just say things that maybe you don't really need now. Okay, so this, I think for now the important thing is to understand these concepts. And so yes, I'm okay. Documentation. My favorite document consideration. Yeah, I've seen this, but I'm not really an expert of serverless functions, so I prefer to don't answer to this because I'm not Docker, but I can't compare them.
How fast is the approach when you have to switch between different branches, let's say staging to development environment?
Okay, usually when you approach to deployment, to a production ready environment, you already need to learn the Docker Compose, which is something that we have not seen today. It's another file which has some services, and and usually, for example, at work we have two different Docker Compose, one for development and one for production, for example, which are kind of similar. For example, something is different, of course, on production. For example, the host, the port. So what we want to expose, maybe some configuration files, maybe we use something developer accesses, authorization. They have the real user. So it's different in that case, but they are very, very similar. Okay.
All right.
Questions?
I've looked at getting the Docker cert. Would you recommend this? I'm working towards a solutions architect role, and I think it would add weight to my resume.
Yeah, I have a Docker certified. I'm a Docker certified associate. I've done this 1 year ago. It was very funny. I honestly had to learn a lot because it also has some Docker Enterprise questions. It's not. I tell you that it's not easy. You need to focus, to really focus. It's not enough to just see the Docker Community Edition. but you need to also at least know something about the Docker Enterprise Edition. So it's not easy. And the answer, it's always, it depends. If for me, for example, it's useful because if I want to do some talks, maybe I think that I'll start also teach Docker here in Rome to someone. And if I create a course, and if I say that I am a Docker certified, the people say, okay, you are certified to do something. But it's the same for every certification. If you take a certification just to be certified, it's useless. If you take a certification because you are really into that world, it will be useful to you. But I suggest you to try. It's not very easy, but I suggest to try because by doing this exam, you are forced to understand some things. Okay. I also recommend to always check the Docker reference on their official docs that are very, very nice. When I create my Docker tips on Twitter and also somewhere else on LinkedIn, I usually always check on the official docs before posting because something maybe it's changing. So this is really it's really great documentation there.
Okay, so we've got this question. What is a good way to introduce Docker in our everyday workflow to understand it better?
Well, the way for us to introduce Docker in our everyday workflow to understand it better. Okay, I don't know if you are asking if do you already have an application or do you want just to learn it? I suggest to just make practice, just to take maybe your working application. Maybe you have deployed it with virtual machine, maybe, or maybe without. And then you can try to containerize it. Where is
okay?
If it's answering.
Is the main or only reason to use Kubernetes over Docker when your containers are in distributed environment as opposed to single node or machine?
Kubernetes is not an alternative to Docker because Kubernetes, like Docker Swarm, is an orchestration tool. So it orchestrates the containers. It's not an alternative to Docker. Kubernetes uses a Docker Compose. Okay, you can use a Docker Compose in 3 ways. Without Docker Swarm, just Docker. You don't need Docker Swarm to use the Docker Compose. With Swarm, and then and also with Kubernetes. Which I'm still learning now. I'm not ready to teach you Kubernetes, but I'm learning it by myself. I always use a part of my time to learn articles, to learn new things. This is something that we all should do. So the answer here is it depends. It depends of the size of your application. Okay, but you can make a try. Of course, you can make a try to deploy something with Kubernetes, but it depends of the service that you need. Okay, but it's not really an alternative to Docker because just to make it clear, Kubernetes uses the container engines. Okay, it's something that is a container engine. Okay, Docker has a container engine, but Kubernetes can use Docker, and also other container engines. Kubernetes uses a Docker engine, so it's not an alternative. It's something on the top.
Okay, we have a question here. I didn't quite get how Docker saves money. Could you quickly explain it again? How does Docker save people money?
It saves people money because the application that you create, they use way less resources. Okay, when you don't know if you have ever created some application inside a virtual machine, but by being more heavy, it needs more resources. That's a fact. That is not something that a virtual machine can stop because it's a whole operating system. It's like saying a browser and iOS. Okay, they can't be compared because the processes will always be more lightweight. They are easier to run on those machines. for example, I've made a lot of tries with Google, Amazon, DigitalOcean, and you can try, you can, with very few euros and dollars, you can just make some practice. But a machine, for example, a machine with 1 gigabyte of RAM, it's hard to run a virtual machine on that operating system. Instead, you can do a lot of stuff with something that has 1 gigabyte of RAM, for example. You can deploy Node, a lot of Node application. Node is very lightweight compared also to Java, for example. I don't get money from Node, but it's very lightweight also, for example, compared to other backend, but they're also, they are lightweight. So it's, if you have something that is lighter, you spend less money, that's it.
How would you use Docker for scalability? Would you have Nginx or Apache spin up a new image if the load gets too high on current infrastructure?
Nginx or Apache spin up a new image. It means spin up a new Docker image, because also Nginx can be containerized in a Docker. Also, Nginx can be containerized in a Docker with Docker. I don't understand what it says, because the image is something that you create. You can create an automation process that automatically creates an image, but an image is something that you create one time. From an image, you can run multiple instances and many containers. Okay. This is something. So you don't create images at runtime. No. You run containers at runtime. Maybe it means you run another container.
Yeah, it could be that.
To orchestrate a container, you need an orchestration tool like Docker Swarm or Kubernetes.
Okay. So what are the options of setting up cron jobs within Docker container? Or should they be placed within their own container, as I saw a threat of possible silent failures, as it runs the risk of one in the process failing into the background and not being monitored by Docker? What are the options?
Let me you want to set up a cron jobs in a Docker container. So I think that it means that you are inside a Docker container, you run a cron job. Should they be placed in their own container? It depends on what do you want to do, because also remember that containers are ephemeral, so they are made to just be deleted, started, stopped. So I don't know if it's the best place to put a cron inside a container, because a container can be deleted at any time, can be replaced with a new one. So it can be done, but it's something that I don't know if it's the best idea to do a cron job inside a container, because it's something that you can have. It could be deleted the second after. So I don't know if it's the best idea. Possible silent failures. Yeah, because it also depends on how you shoot down a container. You can send to the container a sig term or a sig kill. So if you, for example, do a sig kill to the container, like I did before, I did the docker rm-f, you send a sig kill to the container, it can't do anything. If it was running a cron job, it just stops. I don't know if I answered, but it's the best idea.
I only brought that up because we're up to in one of my Slack groups.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah.
I only brought that up because it was brought to my attention from someone in one of my other Slack groups, and they had an interview question about that, setting up a cron job and the possible options, because what we found was that they've set up another separate Docker container with the cron job, and then I didn't like how you attach them or connect them. If you set up two separate containers, Docker containers, one with the cron job, one with the other whatever application.
Okay.
So that was an alternative, but wasn't sure how to connect them.
But what would you like to do? To do something over time.
Yeah, they just had a question. They needed to schedule some activity, whatever it was, maybe some batch files. So they just needed something to run every day, you know, whatever.
But one question: this thing it has to be done on the host machine because the container is something that is running on the host machine. So I suppose that before Docker,
yes,
that before Docker you just did this on the host machine.
Mm-hmm. Right. Correct. So they wanted to understand.
But
what the best choices.
Yeah, can I ask you why do you want the container to do the cron job, or it has also other tasks?
Well, the main thing is that they just had some predefined tasks, batch jobs they had to run, and then they had their own application, you know, so that's the Docker container contained their application, some web application, but they wanted to, you know, also schedule some jobs.
I can't see your application, so I can't give a quite good answer. But I think that the problem that you can say with possible silent failures is that on how the container is stopped. Because yeah, if you kill a container, everything that is inside it is destroyed.
Yep. Yeah, correct.
So I think this is the problem that you can have. This is the problem that you have. Okay. I don't know if you answered you because but it's hard without actually seeing where is the problem. But let me explain just one thing. The container interacts with the host machine using a network. Okay, so you should also check if the network is correct. You can also define your own network to make it connect the container to the host machine. So this could also be the problem. Do you know about networks? Docker networks?
A little bit.
Yeah, you can just try to do Docker network inspect, and you can inspect the network and see if it has all the containers are touched, if they can communicate from each one to the other one on the host machine, or you are using just the default one.
Just the default one for now.
Okay. Okay. So it's hard without seeing it. If you have an example, a public example, we could check this, but otherwise it's hard. But have you experienced this, or you have just seen some threads about this?
No, I mean, it was more for an interview question for someone that was posing it, how they would set it. That's it. So hypothetical.
Okay, bye.
All right. All right, everybody. We are at the end of our time. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Francesco, for pouring intelligence all over us and making me feel smarter than I did when I first came in. But I seriously thank you for taking the time to do this. I know we have a time difference, so I know it's the evening time over there for you.
Yeah. I've tried to do this very, very simple. Maybe someone gets bored, but I don't care because I want everyone to understand the concepts. So if you want something, please let me know also on Twitter. If you want maybe some talk a little bit more advanced, if you want something more specific, also check with Danny because there is a lot of stuff to learn. This was just the basics because like in a classroom, I'd like everyone to understand something and then we can move on. There is a lot of stuff to learn, Also on my channel, YouTube channel, I'm doing very, very basic stuff because I want to people grasp the concepts.
Yeah, I have a strong feeling we're going to do another meetup again. The way I look at this is why we named this the intro. You'll know a lot of the talks that we do are like crash courses where it's a lot of information in a short period of time. I specifically made this an introduction so that way on the next meetup, we can go to a higher level. They can watch this first, get used to it. Then we do this again and they can grab some harder concepts.
Of course, yes. My final idea is to create a Docker crash course, but I want to get to not just do it. I want to, first of all, do little videos with some basic concepts, also about maybe some little commands first. Then maybe in some months, I'll also release a Docker crash course. Maybe we can also do a talk when we do a live crash course. That would be very, very interesting. Also a challenge for me do maybe in 1 hour. I just say you everything. But and also this talk has been very important for me because I get feedback from people because I started this alone for many months, years. So having feedback, it's very important also for me to see what you have understood, what is not clear. Yeah, it was a very good experience also for me.
And it was for us too. And for those of you that are still here, please follow Francesco on Twitter. He releases a lot of information. Very good account to follow and like learn from. So you can find him on what is the link that you gave earlier for contact me?
I have the link on Hashnode.
On Hashnode?
Can I share it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now the first thing that I did on Hashnode was creating a page with all my contacts because I know that people say, oh, where I can find you.
Yeah.
And I don't use Facebook anymore, so don't contact me there.
Yeah. So just go to this link in the chat and follow him everywhere that he goes. And